This is All India Radio in conversation with Biswadeep Chatterjee, India's eminent sound designer. You gave a masterclass on sound, cinema, and experience. Could you tell us a little bit about it and how you think it's important to us?
Yes, thank you for having me. And it's a wonderful experience. And sound design is being considered as a very integral and important part of filmmaking. It always was, but today it has become far more sophisticated, and because our technology is so good today, you practically hear everything. So you have to also be, your work also has to be in great detail, and which involves a certain cost, because you're involving a team very specialized in their respective roles in sound editing, in dialogue editing, in music editing. So for me, a soundscape of a film is a very complete, we call this an audiovisual. That means it's 50% information, 50% is audio and 50% is visual. But what happens is, like when we walk around, we see things, but we hear only what we want to. It's like, if you talk to me, I'll respond, or if you call me out, I'll respond. But there are so many sounds happening all around us. It's coming into our ears, but it's not really registering unless there's something which shakes you out of your thought process. So similarly, when in film also, people are looking at it, but nobody's given a thought that, where are all these sounds created? They realize camera because they see it. Jo dikhta hai, wo bikta hai. So, but sound was never experienced. Part of it was because back in the day, the technology was not that sophisticated, and you had a limited dynamic range when you recorded sound on film. So you could only hear maybe the mid-range of dialogues and maybe the singers, but you did not hear very intricate sounds or music that were in the very high or very low frequencies. So that was the limitation of the medium. So as long as people got their information from the film, they were happy with it. Like, if they could hear the dialogues, they were happy. If they could hear the lyrics of the song, they were happy. They went back home with a nice story. But filmmaking, even though it was very elaborate, it was rather simplistic in terms of ideas. But today the ideas have become far more complex, the technology has become far more intricate, and we had today the reproduction systems, like earlier the dynamic range was hardly about 30 decibels. Today the dynamic range is actually infinite with digital coming in. So we pretty much hear everything. So what happens is, there are no silent moments in our lives. So definitely there are no silent moments in films. Because when we sleep, our eyes close, the camera shuts. But the sound does not shut, because we are constantly hearing even in our sleep. That is why we wake up to an alarm clock. And the sound is all around us. I cannot see what's behind me, but I can hear what's behind me. So there is a constant occurrence of sound all around us. And with today's Dolby Atmos technology in theaters, we can hear sounds even above our heads. Like if there's a chopper flying on top of our heads, we hear the chopper flying on top of our heads. We can feel the chopper flying on top of our heads. When we are walking on the street, we can hear the aircraft on top of us. But we don't really react. We don't look up in the sky, but we know that we are in an environment. So it is this environment that we are trying to simulate in cinema. And it has to be very accurate. It has to also be in context with the story. So you also have to be very subtle, and discreet. So people should not notice sound. They should see the film. They should not notice individual camera work or editing or special effects or sound. It is a collective product. So we have to remain discreet. At the same time, we have to be very sophisticated in our laying tracks and processing each and every tracks, processing the effects, how you process the dialogues. Because what happens is, when an actor is on screen, you have to add certain makeup so that certain features of that actor is highlighted with respect to the lighting. So similarly in sound, we also do the same thing. We give We give certain brilliance to the actors' voices or the singers. And in today's technology, pretty much everything is possible. We are living in very good times. People should now... My only regret in this industry is we are not being allocated that much of a budget which you require, because it has a huge infrastructural cost. I have studios myself, and to make a studio involves treating it with acoustics and stuff like that. So it is not just you carry your equipment and plonk yourself anywhere randomly. You have to make a studio around it. So people should now realize that it is taking up such an important role in the film making process that they should keep a very healthy amount for the budget, because it's only going to improve their film process. They do have budgets for DI and VFX and animation and stuff like that, but for sound, they still carry that old format with them, saying that, okay, but is it that important? It's only when you play it with that whole visual, when you design the sound with the whole visual, that the whole impact gets created, and then the director or the production team realizes, oh wow, we didn't know it would turn out like this. And I had a very similar experience in Uri, my last feature that I was working on, one of the last features that I was working on. So the proof lies in the pudding. So unless, it's very difficult for me to explain to you that this is what I have in terms of like I'll treat it this way or I'll treat it that way. But unless I do it and show it to you, unless you experience it, you will not know what I'm talking about. So it's only after that that they realize, oh wow, it's 50% of the, if this sound was not there, that particular scene would not be able to sustain on its own.
You have multiple national awards to your name, apart from, of course, Filmfare. What do you see as being the most important pieces of work that you have done? Because sometimes an artist sees it very differently from a receiver. What would you say are some of your most important or fulfilling pieces of work that you've done?
This is a very tough question, because every bit of work is important for me. Every small work or big work, small producer, big producer, I don't make such distinctions. Every film, I put my heart out into it. It's exhaustive. It's an exhaustive experience. ऐसा कभी नहीं होता है कि इतने पैसे में इतना ही मिलेगा. My conscience does not permit it, and my sound will not. And I'd rather not do the project if it is, if it doesn't work out, or if but if I feel for the project. So it is immaterial to me who is making that project, if the script is appealing, if the story is good, and more important, if the people around are really good, and I know I can, match my wavelength, and I get into the project. So for me, whether it's a huge film, whether it's a small film, if the director is happy, that is my biggest award. And I'm very grateful for having 4 national awards to my credit. The first one was for Madras Cafe, the second was for Bajirao Mastani, the third was for Uri, and look at what I'm saying. The 4th national award was I won for a non-feature category called the Children of the Soil. And now he was a very small producer. And it was a very small and a short film, but the idea was amazing. And the entire soundscape was actually designed with a beautiful clay animation that he'd done. Now, this is a very small film, nobody knows about it, but it got me a national award. So I'm not saying that we don't work for awards, we work for a creative satisfaction. And if it gets awarded, and especially the national award, which I value above anything in life, it's a recognition by our government, it's a recognition, it's a level playing field. It's not and it's more difficult for a person from Bollywood to get this award, because your film is competing with the entire country, the filmmakers of the entire country, and they are brilliant talent in all the regions, all the provinces. They come out with fantastic films. So it's a level playing field, and I feel very honored for it.
Thank you so much for making the time. More power to you and sound, and all the best for the future.